Hi everyone, once again a very good morning. We'll start with first completing our essay 530 remaining questions, and then we will proceed with the rest of the chapter 560, 570, that is your completion and review chapter questions. Now, let me share my screen with all of you. Under your essay 530 audit sampling, there is a specific question which talks about how do you determine the size of your sample. There are the certain factors which tells you, with the help of those you actually determine how many sampling units are you actually going to check. How many sampling units means overall your sample size. If that sales transaction is 1 lakh and if you choose to check only 1000 transaction, 1000 transaction become your sample size. But how do you determine this number is going to be 1000, 2000 or 500? So there are some factors related to it. Now, it also depend on, are you going to do the control testing or are you going to do the details testing, right? Do you have this concept in your books, guys?
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
going to do control testing or are you going to do detail testing? So based on that, you will decide how many what will be your sample size. Now, this is a question with reference to SA 530 audit sampling explains briefly following factors that the auditor may consider when determining the sample size for test of detail. First, the desired level of assurance, and second, the stratification of population. But if you know that there are few more factors when it comes to the test of details, there are total of 6 factors that you consider when determining the sample size. First, if your risk of material misstatement is assess the risk of material misstatement as per SA 315 is higher, then your sample size will increase. Now, if you choose my desired level of assurance is going to, I want to increase my desired level of assurance. I want to give confidence to the user of financial statement that this particular item doesn't contain, this particular item of financial statement doesn't contain the misstatement, material misstatement. So if desired level of assurance, that confidence that you want to build on that particular item is high, you are going to test more samples. Then if your expected rate of misstatement, if you feel that this particular item of inventory is going to contain a lot of material misstatement, obviously you have to increase your sample size. But now here comes the catch. If out of your total population, if can you divide them into the small parts based, which you will call as strata. For example, I told you in case of sales, you can divide your entire population to different strata such as north, east, south, west, or export sales. So if a stratification is appropriate, you don't need to increase your sample size, rather you can decrease, because you have already beautifully designed your entire population to different stratas, and now you can choose the sample from each of these strata, because it will become your separate sampling unit. Your sample size can reduce then in that case. Then use of other, if so for example you are testing the valuation of debtors, so you are already obtaining balance confirmation in that. You are already checking some of the sales invoices in that. So when you are already applying multiple procedures for the valuation of data, then you don't need to increase your sample size for test of detail. You can have less sample and perform other audit procedures as well in that. Same thing happens with inventory also, right? You want to check inventory existence, you go and attend the physical count. At the same time, sorry, you can also refer to the purchase and sales documents, right, to check whether that inventory was already existing on that particular day. On that you can also check the warehouse register to check the inventory movement. You're already applying a lot of procedure into that. Why do you want to increase your sample size? With the smaller sample size it is possible. Now here comes the last example of materiality. Whenever you say that your materiality is high, that means your tolerable rate of misstatement is high. And under this limit, like for example, you say my overall materiality is 5 lakh. That means up to 4 lakh 99,000 999. This become your tolerable rate of misstatement. So if your tolerable rate of misstatement is high, then you will decrease your sample size. Had it been lower, you would have to increase your sample size. Can you please write all these six factors, guys? In terms of test or detail, you have six factors. In terms of test or control, you have four factors to consider. Please write this down.
But there are 7 points, ma'am.
What is the last one? What did I leave?
There will be a negligible effect on the sample size due to the number of sampling units in the population. For large population, the actual size of the population has little, if any, effect on sample size. Thus, for small population, audit sampling is often not effective as alternative means of obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence.
Is it there in study mat? This point? Can you send me
Yes,
the
ma'am.
photo of it in the group, please?
Yes, ma'am. Sent, ma'am.
I'll just comprehend with that point exactly what they mean to say. But at least you can remember this six first, right? For the exam point of view, I think this is more easy to comprehend to with when it comes to the how do you increase or decrease your sample size. Now, related to this, you will have another question. See this one. The sample size can be determined by the application of a statistically based formula through the exercise of professional judgment. When circumstances are similar, the effect of sample size of factor will be similar regardless of whether a statistical or non-statistical approach is chosen. Explain stating the example of factors that the auditor may consider when determining the sample size for test of control. Now, for test of control, whenever you apply certain procedure on test of control and you don't see the result as you have expected, you will call it as deviation. Whereas when you found the error or fraud during the test of detail, you call it as misstatement. So the wordings in your answer also change. Here are four factors when you have to consider for the sample size of test of controls. Are you in your essay 315, when you actually understood the entity and its environment, during that process, what is the amount of risk of material misstatement you have assessed related to the and also its relevant control? If there is an increase in the extent to which auditor's risk assessment takes into account the relevant control, it will also increase the sample size. For example, you say, I don't think that entity's internal controls are good. Why would you waste time testing your control? This will happen with you in your practical life also. Some of the clients will not even have any regard for the internal controls. The management will not even care if there is any internal control. They will expect, auditor, you have come here, please do our check our document, please check our calculation, and you go. You don't have to check the process controls. We don't have any process controls as such. We are a smaller company. Now you know there are no relevant controls. Why would you spend time testing the control? Put all your energy into analytical procedure and test of details. No. So if you are considering taking the relevant controls into your account, then only you will increase your sample size for test of controls. Desired level of assurance is say an increase in desired level of assurance that the tolerable deviation will not exceed by the actual deviation will always increase your sample size, because you want to build more confidence that my tolerable deviation will never increase by the actual deviation. So actual deviation is going to be, sorry, will not be exceeded by the actual deviation. So whatever may be the tolerable deviation, my actual deviation will never go above that. You want to keep that into that limit, increase your sample size if you want to do that. Then if your tolerable rate of deviation is high, it is similar to test of details, you will decrease your sample size because you only kept your materiality to be high. If you feel that the expected rate of deviation from the controls is going to be high, please increase your sample size. Please write this down, guys. Inside, I want the inner content also as it is. Guys, you're writing? Okay, please complete. Nira, you have the printout of this book, no? Okay, there is a question with the name of Sanjeev, an article assistant. Can you tell me the question number of it? So it starts with Sanjeev, an article assistant. It is MTP April 24 question. I am not sure if it is there in your book. Please check once. Latest question itself. From 61.
Finished writing.
Done? Done? Everyone? Priya? Which point you are completing?
Last point.
Please complete it. We did a question on sampling risk. Did we write anything regarding the sampling risk, guys? Yet? See this MTP April 24 question, not asked in the exam yet. Sanjeev, an article clerk in an audit firm, is part of the engagement team in conducting the audit of a company for the financial year 24-25. It is a small company having turnover of 25 CR. During the course of audit, he notices that the senior team member has taken following approach for selecting item for testing reflected in the financial statement to obtain the audit evidence. He has selected to test items debited under the head machinery repairs and maintenance. What he did? He had selected to test items debited under machinery repair and maintenance as expenditure relating to it during the financial year 24-25 has increased considerably as compared to past year. Out of the purchases, he has selected to test purchases with the related party amounting to rupees 5 CR. He has also selected to test all the individual items expenditure exceeding 5 lakh. Besides, he has also selected 50,000 debited in legal expenses to know the purpose of payment made to the external legal counsel. Now, Sanjeev understand that the senior member is using audit sampling for selecting a team for testing. Do you agree with him? Which risk is involved in the approach discussed with the reason? What is the problem in his sample selection? He feels that he's doing the sampling, but what is the problem in the sampling over here? First, tell me, is he allowed to do something like that? Can he select a particular monetary unit to only audit?
No, ma'am.
It is allowed. In the beginning of the standard, only they have that it is allowed. That see, in the beginning of the standard, rather in SA 500, they have told that not necessarily you will always going to check 100% of the transaction. So you have one option is for you to check 100% of the transaction. One, you do sampling less than 100, or third, you can go by a specific amount that I will check all the transaction above 50,000. So it's not like you can't go, but you can't go it for like for all the machinery and repairs. Are you going to do this only? He has selected out of all the purchase for the machine. Sorry, he has selected to test items debited under the head machinery repairs and maintenance as expenditure relating to it during the year has increased considerably. Okay, out of purchases, he has tested. He has said he will only check the purchases from related party amounting to rupees 5 crores. But what about the other purchases? Then he also tests the individual items of expenditure exceeding 5 lakhs. So what will be the there will be concerned in the expenditure less than 5 crore rupees, right? A similar case for the legal expenses. As per SA 530, audit sampling refers to applying the audit procedure to less than 100% of the item within the population, such that all the items in the population has equal chance of being selected. That is exactly the meaning of audit sampling. So when you choose the 100% of the item to be tested, that is not your audit sampling. When you say I will sample the items and it will be less than 100%, that is exactly what is your audit sampling. Not everything you choose. I will only check the transaction above 50,000. Audit sampling, does it allow you to do that? Select only a monitoring unit. You see, 100% you don't want to check, that is completely fine, but do it in a proper audit sampling method. No. So you will say the audit sampling it refers to applying the audit procedure to less than 100% of the item with the population, such that all the items in the population has equal chance of being selected. In the given case, the senior team member is not selecting the items for testing by means of audit sampling. He is only selecting specific items from the population. Therefore, Sanjeev's understanding is not proper. However, as per SA 500, one of the means available to auditor for selecting items for testing is by selecting specific items. Specific items may be selected based on high value. All the items over a certain amount and certain items only to obtain information. The above approach for selecting items for testing is subject to non-sampling risk. It is also the risk that auditor may reach erroneous conclusion due to inappropriate audit procedure, because his audit procedure is going to be wrong in this case. Please write this answer, everyone, with reference to, and give proper reference. This was MTP question. Whenever you are ready, please let me know.
Finished.
Mira, had you done this question before? Acha, this we did in the last batch only, kya? In the March batch? Okay. But are you able to recall the concepts then? Well, Priya, whenever you are able to finish, please let me know. Done? Are it beautiful? Okay. Some of the I say illustrations I skip, guys, because they don't ask such easy questions in your exams actually. But okay. Did we do this question the last time? What are the advantages of statistical sampling? We didn't? Just check no ones.
We did, ma'am.
Didn't? Okay. Did we write a sampling risk last time? No? Okay. This is the question that I want to cover. Please write this one. First, let's understand. I think you know already the sampling risk, both the, like, in test of control, test of detail, and non-sampling risk, but still write one more time so that it's like you are revising it again. Sampling risk is the risk that auditor's conclusion based on the sample may be different from the conclusion if the entire population was subject to the same audit procedure. Of course, that is the sampling risk always. Like for example, like always take the easiest example of SA 501. You are going to attend the physical count, right? Now, whenever you are attending the physical count, you observe the inventory count, but you only do the test check. Remember, the very first procedure is given. You first go to the client place and you observe the entire count, but you only do the test counting. You never check 100% of the items being counted by the entity, right? You are not going to do that. But how do you do that? Obviously your risk will be different only. No, the amount of errors and the misstatement you will find, the differences in the physical inventory and book inventory you will find, that is different only. So this risk is going to be there. At the moment you think that I am going to use audit sampling, you are carrying this risk of sampling, selecting a sample less than 100%. So, what is audit sampling? What is sampling risk? Sampling risk may be defined as the risk that auditor's conclusion based on a sample may be different from the conclusion if the entire population was subjected to the same audit procedure. Now, sampling risk can lead to two type of erroneous conclusion depending on, are you testing control or are you testing details? For example, in test of control, auditor can conclude that the controls are effective when they are not, and in test of details, material misstatement does not exist even when they are. This results in inappropriate audit opinion. In case of test of control, the test auditor may conclude that the controls are less effective than they are, and in case of test of detail, auditor may conclude that the material misstatement exists when it does not. This would, so basically both the vice versa things are happening, right? So this would lead to an extra work for an auditor. Now they didn't did they ask the non-sampling risk? Yes. So what is non-sampling risk? Any risk that is other than the sampling risk is non-sampling risk, and it mainly comes because you applied wrong audit procedure. You should have done a different audit procedure. You chose different audit procedures, because of which the resultant that you have got, it is not satisfactory, and the risk of material misstatement, it still exists, right? Non-sampling risk that the auditor give inappropriate opinion due to application of wrong audit procedure or inappropriate audit procedure.
Finished, ma'am.
All right. Just give me a moment. I'm just thinking of including chapter 5, some portion of chapter 5 in today's session. Let me see what topics I want to include. Will you be interested to do chapter 5, some portion of chapter 5 today? Right. Tell me, would you be interested? Some portion of chapter 5. You have not studied chapter 5 like very recently, yeah? Or have you? Or you have a general idea of what chapter 5 talks about? Okay, let's quickly discuss a little bit of things, but because chapter 5 is a big chapter, we won't be able to complete like one day we will sit and we will do hundreds of questions. That is not going to possible. But if we have some time today and we have allocated a good amount of time today, so let's see some of the question of chapter 5.
Will we do chapter 7 also, ma'am?
Yes,
Today?
but we'll do some portion of chapter 5 so that we it's not like that we have left the entire chapter 5. That is a 20 marks portion. No, so we should not take that much a risk. And if we feel that we will do everything in one day for chapter 5, what will happen? We'll feel bored only half of the session, and then we are like, no, we don't want to learn about so many assertions. So let's do some questions, at least some 15 questions. Let's do today, and then we'll do rest later.
Ma'am, will we cover chapter 5 in the tomorrow's marathon, ma'am?
Yes. So that is the reason I want to cover some portion of chapter 5 tomorrow. So I want that to be like a revision for all of you. And I'm going to conduct most of the session only in English. So you please come in the marathon session tomorrow, right? So that is why I don't want to don't want it to look a lot of fresh, like, you are getting it for the first time. That is why let me cover some portion of it over here. Let's start with chapter 5, guys.